I'm Dr. James Renault at Shawnee State University, and this video presentation is called SQL Complex Where Clauses. In this presentation, we will look at additional parts of the where clause in an SQL statement. In the previous lessons, we did simple where clauses where we said where equal to or where not equal to, and we also used other comparisons, but we only did it with a single value in a single column at a time. This presentation, we're going to include Boolean expressions and, or, and not to allow you to make very complex where clauses. We'll also include the in clause, the in operator, and the is null operator or is not null operator for the where clause. Before we can really get into making complex where clauses, I feel that we need to take a step back and discuss what is a Boolean value, what are Boolean operators, and a little bit of the history of Boolean. Boolean mathematics was named, or Boolean algebra, Boolean arithmetic was named for the mathematician George Boole, who back in the late 1800s was a mathematician that spent his time thinking about relationships between true and false values. So Boolean operations all deal with true and false. They don't deal with numbers. They don't deal with other values. There are three Boolean operators that George Boole defined, and we're going to talk about how to use them in the context of SQL, but this also applies to any kind of programming environment you might be doing. And the three Boolean operators are and, or, and not. The first Boolean operator I want to talk about is the and operator. The and operator takes two values, A and B in the example you see here, and returns true if both values are true. It returns false if either value is false or if both values are false. So that blue rectangle you see, or the table you see there on the slide, is what we call a truth table. It goes through all of the possible values of A and all of the different Boolean possible values of B, and then shows you what the result of A and B would be. And you can see that A and B, if they're both true, is true, and all the other values of A and B are false. The second Boolean operator I want to discuss tonight, or on this presentation, is the OR operator. You can see based upon the truth table here on this slide that the OR operator is true if either or both of the other values are true. So if A is true, A or B is true. If B is true, A or B is true. And it's only false if they are both false. Now, this isn't quite the way OR is used in the English language. Some people may be confused by this definition of OR, but this is the definition of OR that is used throughout computer science, computers, and mathematics also. So remember that OR means if either value is true, then it's true. Both values are true, well, that's either, then that's also true. So that's the OR operator. Now, let's move on to the NOT operator. The NOT operator is different than and OR because it only takes one value. NOT is the complement operator, thus reversing true to false and false to true. And you can see that in the truth table here on the slide. Now that we have looked at the three Boolean operators and, or, and not, let's create an SQL statement with an and. Here's a question. We'll be using in our demonstration in this presentation the world database. There's a URL at the end of this presentation, and you should be able to have access to that through the MySQL system that we have in class. The AND operator, to use AND in a where clause in SQL, you literally just put AND between two expressions, and if both of them are true, it will be true. Easy enough. So we can see here in this select statement, I want to know which countries are in North America that have more than 50 million people. Well, by saying continent equals North America, collects all of those countries in North America. So if I just did a where with only that, I'd get all of the countries in North America. The other part says population greater than 50 million, which would give me a list of all of the countries in the world with a population of greater than 50 million. But by joining them together with the AND clause, by joining them together with the AND operator, I now get only those countries in North America with a population of greater than 50 million. Here on this slide, we can see the result of that SQL statement. Mexico and the United States are the only two countries in North America with more than 50 million people. In another example of using Boolean operators, here's a statement of using a combination of ands and ors. Notice the parentheses around the or. You can think in the Boolean operators of and or a lot like addition and subtraction. Or is a lot like addition. 1 plus 1 equals true plus true equals true. True plus false would be true. So you can think of or as addition, and because or is treated like addition in the order of operations, we have to put parentheses around the expression with an or the operators wouldn't be done in the correct order. So let's take a look at what this statement says. This is a statement that I executed against the database to try to figure out where I want to retire, because I want to retire in either North America or Europe, and I'd like to retire where the life expectancy is rather long. Over 79, that's a good life expectancy. If I live that long, that'd be great, right? But so I'm doing a select from country where, now I list some specific columns to select. Select columns from country where life expectancy greater than 79, which would give me all of the countries in the world with a life expectancy of greater than 79, and then there are the parentheses, continent equals North America or continent equals Europe. So it's going to find me all of the countries in North America. It's going to find me all of the countries in Europe. It's going to put that list together, giving me a list of all the countries in North America or Europe. And then it's going to show me the ones where life expectancy is greater than 79 years. And now we can see the result of that SQL query. Andorra, Canada, Switzerland, Iceland, San Marino, and Sweden are the countries in North America and Europe that have a life expectancy of greater than 79. Andorra, that looks like a fine place to live. They live long in Andorra. Maybe that's where I need to go look to see where to retire to. In our third example, I'm using a combination of and not to figure out what countries have a population greater than 150 million people and are not in North America. So you can see that I'm doing select from country where population greater than 150 million and not continent equals North America. Now, I could have used continent not equal to North America and done it that way, but I wanted to show you how not works. Not has a higher priority, higher mathematical operator or preference than and or, so it will do the not first and then it will do the and later. And here's the SQL results of all of the countries with a population of greater than 150 million that aren't in North America: Brazil, China, Indonesia, India, and Pakistan. The next operator I want to introduce is called the in operator. And the in operator basically checks to see if a value is in a list. Now, there are two different forms of the in operator that I want to show you, or two different ways it can be used. The first way is using it with a specific list of values, and then the second is using it with a second select statement called a subselect that goes and gets a list of values first and then executes the query, the second query, the outer query, against the inner query's results. To use the in operator with a list of values, we put the values in parentheses and separate them by commas. So you can see that my select statement here will show me all of the cities with a country code in the list of Turkmenistan and Portugal. Those are the TKM and PRT are the country codes for those two countries. So you can see that it works like the statement on the bottom, using an or where it's Turkmenistan or Portugal. But the in clause would be a lot easier if you had 5 countries you wanted to select or 20 countries you wanted to select. Rather than having the or, you could just use a single in with a list of values. Here you can see the result of the in clause giving us the list of the cities that are in my database. I don't have all the databases and all of the cities in the world database, but you can see here a list of the major cities in Portugal and Turkmenistan. Here is a second version of the in operator, only this time in the parentheses I actually have a second select statement. Take a look at that inner select which I have highlighted and see that it selects a list of country codes from the country where the continent is South America. So that's going to give me a list of all of the countries in South America. It does that blue query or that highlighted query first before it does the outer query of finding all of the cities in that list of countries with a population of greater than 2 million. That's really cool to be able to select a list of values from one table and then use that in an in clause to query another table. So here are the results of that select statement using a subselect to get a list of country codes and then using that to get a list of the cities with a population over 2 million in all of those countries. Now, if you recall, when we were doing mathematics in our arithmetic in our early SQL chapter, when we ran into the null value, things got a little wonky. If you add something to a null value, which is the value of nothingness, you get nothing. You get null. So when we're looking for null in an SQL statement, when we're trying to figure out where null values are and where null values are not, using the operators of equal, not equal, less than, greater than, don't make a lot of sense. Because of that, there is a special operator called isNull and another special operator called isNotNull that specifically test whether a column or a value is null or not null. Let's see the isNull in action by seeing if there are any countries that don't have a capital city defined or have a capital city of null. You can see that it says select code and name and continent from country, where capital is null. So that should give us a list of all of the cities without a capital. And here you can see the result of the query showing all of the countries where the capital city is null. IsNotNull works the same way, exactly the opposite way, by returning all of the columns that are not null, so that have a value. This concludes our discussion of the where clause using and or not in is null and is not null. Thank you.